Yeah. Okay, for anybody that hasn't already met me before, I think I've met a few of you before, but if you haven't met me, my name is Gary Hayes and I'm the Head of Design here in Raha. I'm going to go through each of these steps and I'm going to zoom in on each one of them to show you what each of our grades do. So let me begin. So our year is split into two parts, so our subject is two areas. There's product design and there's digital design. So on the top of all these slides, you'll see that there's product design and in the bottom it's digital design. So they do the first half of the year from September until maybe the first week of February in one subject, and then they do a swap over and they do the other subjects. The main difference between the two subjects are that in product design you're doing something physical, you're making physical items, and in digital you're working completely in the internet and on the web. So in grade 6, in product design, the kids are working with an awful lot of materials and they're trying to understand the tools and they're trying to get organised. That beginning from September up until maybe the first winter break, that's a difficult time for them because they're trying to organise MYP. This is a brand new subject to them. They don't really know what they're doing, so we're trying to set up some basic skills for them. So in product design, they're learning about materials, learning about health and safety, understanding what the tools are, how they work, getting familiar with the workshop, getting familiar with us. And in digital design, they're starting a small bit of beginner coding. So what I always notice is when they do the swap over in maybe the first week of February, you'll see a completely different student. You'll see someone that's a bit more managed, someone that knows a small bit more about what they're doing. So what could generally happen is the first couple of assignments are a bit difficult for them to complete and maybe the grades are a bit low. So what we've done to try and help that is when they get their first grade in either product or digital design in criterion A, B, C and D, I'll discuss those later on, what we do is we give them a second chance. So each teacher will grade the work and then we'll give them a second chance. We'll give them some feedback, tell them about what they did well and maybe what they need to improve, and then we'll give them another maybe day or two to go back, try it again, and we'll regrade it. So that brings up their grades and gives them a small bit more confidence. So when they move into grade 7, they're a bit more confident at this stage, and grades 6 and 7 are quite a bit similar, except grade 6 they're trying to figure everything out. Now they've everything figured out and we want to test their skills a small bit more. So in grade 7 product design, we're trying to focus on sustainability, and we're looking at recycled material and trying to get them to understand why we would reuse items and what the benefits of using that are. So what we try to do is we try to get them to create a clock. This has been a really successful one because it's completely open to them. They're allowed to design it in whatever way they want. And they're allowed to bring in items from home, they're allowed to use material in the workshop, and we try to give them a bit more free roam with this idea. We keep with the idea of sustainability in digital design, and we're talking about eco-friendliness and eco-design and designing a home that would be helpful to the environment. The UAE has a big initiative towards sustainability, and we try to link in as much as we can and try to get the students to visit areas around and look at their own homes and see how they might be able to improve them. So this is the main aim for grade 7, and to try and also keep those skills within the workshop of tools and using them safely. But when grade 8 comes, grade 8 is kind of the balancing year. Grade 8 we're trying to start now preparing them for the DP, and we're trying to push them that bit further. So in grade 8 in product design, we move away from materials, we move away from traditional methods of creating items using tools, and we try to move forward with more modern methods of using equipment. So what we're doing here is we're doing actual 3D design. So in grade 7 in digital design, they do a small bit of 3D design where they actually design their own home online on a website or on a program. We try to build on this in grade 8, and what we do is we've linked up with Yas Marina and used some of their curriculum, and we get them to design a Formula 1 car, and we get them to study aerodynamics. So we get them to study aerodynamics and link with maths especially. So they're always studying it in maths, they're studying it in design, and it's linking over and back, and they're seeing real life applications of, if I was an engineer, this is what I would be looking at. They could also link in a bit of science there, and they're always questioning some of those teachers to identify what's the best way to make this Formula 1 car. When they move into digital design here then, this is where the subjects start to part a small bit. We start to see a vast difference between digital and product design at this stage. Now we're seeing in digital design, they're being pressured into coding a bit more, trying to manage their coding a lot better, and they're trying to make an animation. If anybody's ever done an animation before, that's quite a difficult skill to master. And when they go into grade 8, this is a great way for them to decide which do they more or less prefer. Sometimes what you'll notice is they might get a good grade in one and they might not in the other, because they might prefer a product to digital. So we're trying to encourage them at all the time to try and use the skills in both subjects. So this is just where it starts to part a small bit. But you'll see that students have a huge interest up until now, and then when we move into grade 9, they can use all these new skills that they've gained from grade 6. So we see a really independent student in grade 9, someone that really wants to use all of these new skills. So in product design, what we start to do is we try to incorporate everything that they've done so far. So from grade 6, they've learned about materials, they've learned about hand tools. In grade 7, they've looked at 3D modeling. In grade 8, they've looked at 3D modeling. And now in grade 9, what we're looking from them is for them to combine the two of those. And we're making a small little mini golf course. So they're making a mini golf course, and they have to use some laser cutting, some 3D printing. They have to use some traditional methods, using saws and other equipment. And this is completely up to them. We give them a base, but they have to make it on a theme. So they have to pick a theme that they actually really like and interests them, and then they actually make that golf course on that theme. So you see some really, really strange and wonderful things. You see an awful lot of people are into movies, and they'll try to base it off a movie that they've seen or a book or something to that effect, and it works out really well and they get really interested in it. In grade 9 then we're going really into the depths of coding, and we're trying to look at HTML. So they're coding their own website at this point. They're actually looking at coding a website that's completely up to them. How would they like to code the website? If they're having difficulty with that, we have other programs that help differentiate what they're doing, and they can use the likes of Wix, which is more of a drag-drop setup, which will help their grade, but still keep them really interested in the subject and get a really, really good outcome. So now they have a choice between the two of these. We're starting to build them up toward DP. So grade 10 is starting to really, really build them up and their skills towards which subject they would like to choose. We always hope that students would be so interested that they would pick one of them in the end, and there are complete options now into DP for both subjects. So in grade 10, in product design, we want to leave it completely up to them. It is your independent project. You have to let us know how you would like to do it and what material you're going to use and why would you choose those materials. And what we're doing for that is they're actually making an educational toy for a student. Now this year we're hoping to narrow it down, and we're hoping to try and get them to make it for students that possibly have a deficiency in some areas. So possibly they're less able in some areas and they need this educational toy to teach them how to do those things. So that's what we're trying to aim at, and we're trying to help students understand that if you are making a product, the customer is always the person you're aiming it towards, and target audience is hugely important. So we're trying to show them that if you target it toward an audience, why are you targeting it toward them? When they move into digital design for the second half of the year, they're looking at the concept of marketing. Now both of these subjects are really good at building them up to the DP, because there is a lot of business strategies that go into both computer science and design technology, and looking at the idea of marketing taps into the idea of being business smart, I guess. So we're looking at them marketing the school to the outer community. So they have to look at the website as it is, and then they have to go and make a new website for Raha, and then try and market it better than it currently is, and give their reasons why they would do that. So maybe it's not tapping into the audiences that it could be tapping into at the moment, and they have to look and see what they would improve. So it's a really good way of looking at coding, looking at areas of computer science, and also looking at areas of business. When we move into DP design, then they do get the choice to do either. So before, about 2 years ago, we didn't have this choice, but now we have the choice to do DP design or DP computer science. So what I would suggest is if your child has an interest in this, these are the paths that I normally see people come out of. So design technology, if they're interested in product design and they decide to go down that route for DP, well then they'll be looking at product designing, engineering in any aspect really, and that's where they'll be able to lead out into university if they choose to. If they go down the computer science route, they look at computing, coding games, animating for movies, software creation. This is a really modern career. Both of them really are. And I think if your son or daughter wants to look at 7 years down the line, these two are going to be extremely important with modern day society. Looking at our assessment criteria, this does not change from grade 6 to grade 10. What changes is the amount that is expected of them, or the terminology. So they might go from just describing aspects or just outlining them in grade 6, whereas they'll have to do in-depth research in grade 10. So first we have criterion A. In criterion A, that's what we're currently just after finishing. That is where they research the product. They research previous products and they try to analyse what the current market and what things are out there at the moment and how they can try to get their head around this new concept. In criterion B, which we've just began, they're developing unique ideas. They have to come up with unique ideas, something that is different than the norm, something that is their own idea. So they come up with 3 or 4 ideas, and then at the end of criterion B, they're narrowing it down and they're choosing which one they think they're going to make. In criterion C, they go and make that product. They can make it whatever way they want. They have to just let us know and we help them and support them and facilitate everything that they want to do. And finally, they reflect on the whole experience and they evaluate everything so far and feel where their downfalls are so that they can adjust them to when they go into the following subject in February. Now, as a parent, how can you help? This might seem vague, but the biggest issue I have coming back from parents, especially in the older grades, is my son or daughter is spending hours and hours on end doing this homework. There is really no homework. We don't necessarily give it. We give them enough time in class where they should complete it. And if you see your son or daughter doing huge amounts of homework, the issue is that they're clearly not using the class very wisely, and we've given them the time. So what I would suggest is just take notice of the amount of homework they're doing, and if you have any issues, please send me an email and I will follow it up with the teacher, or just send an email to the teacher directly. They shouldn't be doing all of that. If they are, what I do tend to notice is grade 7. In grade 7, I've always had parents coming back about the Eco Home project, and the reason being is the kids are so interested in it, they don't really want to leave it down. And I do notice that they're doing it in their study halls, they're doing it at home, they're doing it everywhere they possibly can, which is brilliant, but I'm always telling them it has to be balanced. With grades 8, 9 and 10, the biggest focus for us is they're all talk. So they'll give us 30, 40 pages of work. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to narrow it down. So we do have a new policy in place where grades 8, 9 and 10 should be giving only 10 pages maximum. So the reason for that is in DP, that's expected for them. And that's all we want. So if they're spending loads of time writing all of this text, this will be an issue, and this will that will be something that will affect their grades. So just keep that in mind. If you're having a look at their work and it's pages and pages and pages, just reassure them that they don't need to do that much. They should be more to the point, more precise. We're not like any of the other subjects. So all I would suggest is, if your son or daughter is really interested in this subject, encourage them at home not to do the work, but just to look into new things. With sustainability, look into different countries, search online, look at all these new modern technologies and bring that into class, because that inevitably will help them to develop new and creative ideas. It's a really exciting subject, it's really interesting, it's really modern. We try to keep up to date with as much as possible, and I think our team as a whole are extremely excited and passionate about our subject. And if we ever email you, if any of the staff members email you, you can be sure that this is something that they've really thought about. We discuss that as a department all the time, and we never send out needless emails. If they've emailed about behavioural, it is literally because this has happened a number of times. If they email about an assignment, which I normally do as well as others, I will email and say that your son or daughter has not used their improvement time. The reason why I email that is because I really want them to use it and I want their grades to go up. So just suggest it to them that they really need to keep on top of that improvement time. It's there for them to use. I would really encourage them to use it. Okay? I'm happy to grade whatever 2 or 3 times over if I need to, as long as it brings up their grade. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? Yes?
The slide before assessment, can you go back to that?
Yeah, no problem.
This one. So, product design and engineering. These two things, they don't cross over. Like in DT, they're not going to be programmed to coding.
They're more than welcome to, but if we look at grade 11 is all theory-based. It's looking at raw materials to a finished product. So coding doesn't really come into any of that area in product design. But in grade 12, they have to do an individual assessment where they actually make their own product. That's where all the MYP skills come in. They can choose what they like to do. But if coding is a part of it, yes, of course. We have one student currently working with Etihad, and he's making a new trolley for the planes because he feels like that the trolleys are inefficient as they are. So they're funding his IA at the moment. So that is one area that we've looked at. I always encourage them to look at local jobs and local careers, but I haven't seen a crossover as of yet. But that's the student's choice if they feel there's a link.
So if a child takes a DT, they won't be programming?
They won't be programming in product design, no. But
Not product design, design technology.
In design technology, no, they won't be coding in that. No, there is no coding involved in that curriculum. There is coding. Computer science is a heavy coding course. So if they're looking for coding, that is exactly where they need to be. There's a huge amount of hours in coding, and this is a skill. It's like learning a new language. We won't have the time to teach that in product.
And the grade sixes, do they know about the way you're assessing when you go back to the assessment where it says, I know my son is in criterion A, they did the research, they're developing their ideas, they're narrowing it down to one little thing that they're working on, the organizer. Does he know that he's going to be manufacturing it?
Yeah, so he knows that he's going to go into the workshop. Beforehand, what the teacher generally does is they bring them in for kind of a familiar session to get them understanding of how they use the tools and stuff like that. So it'll probably be about November where he's going to go in and start manufacturing. It's Mr. Cullum that is doing that.
The children know what's the next step, so when they are designing, they know that they need to actually...
So it's narrowed down already, so they're given 2 pieces of wood in grade 6, and they can't come up with these big extravagant ideas. They can, but they need to narrow them down. Yeah, so they'll know that this is something that they're actually going to make.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why they get so excited about product design, I think, because they know they're going to be going somewhere else other than the classroom. Any other questions? Yes?
Like my son likes both. Do you have any students in DP that take both subjects?
I haven't. I have had queries of it since computer science is only new this year. I think people were reluctant to get involved in it because they were just a bit afraid because it is quite a dense course. So the 2 of them, if they wanted to do the 2 of them, I believe that they can pick 2 sciences. So all I would suggest is they understand the workload that's coming in. But I guess it's the same as choosing physics and computer science. They're both very, very heavy. But yeah, I haven't had anyone so far, but I'd love to see someone do it. We fully support the idea. But yeah, that is an option for them if they want to do that.
Like a few years.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And the other questions? Yes?
With the digital design, it seems as though there's a fair amount of prior knowledge as you build up from grade 6 to year 10. The new students coming into years 9 and 10, how do they go about sort of catching up on that prior knowledge?
So the things that they learn in grade 6 to 10, the only prior knowledge they would have is prior skills, I guess. And your son or daughter probably has those from a previous school. Looking at the grade 11 content, the grade 11 content links in parts, but it's devoted on course, so any student can come in and do it, no problem. But they just need to know that there is quite a lot to learn, but it is a very exciting course and they have given the hours toward it. So I would not recommend anyone coming in. If you feel like your son or daughter is organised and that's something they want to do, I would fully recommend it. It's definitely a good course and they probably have the skills as it is. If they just keep organised and keep on top of it, they'll be perfectly fine. Any other questions? No? And if you have any other questions or you want to speak to me on my own at any stage, I'm in H03. Anyone is more than welcome to drop in. I can direct you toward the teacher. If you just want to go to your son or daughter's teacher, you're more than welcome to as well. Thank you very much.
Mr. Carlos is on his way. While we're waiting, I mean, Mr. Gary is actually the gifted and talented coordinator as well. He likes to be very busy. So if you'd like to just give a brief rundown of...
Yeah, so I am the school coordinator from EY all the way to grade 12 for Gifted and Talented. So Gifted and Talented is a program that's run in Raha and it's for students that are excelling in subject areas. So for example, a gifted student is a student that is excelling above 130 on a chem score. So when they do the chem testing, I will be able to see across English, maths, and a thing called non-verbal reasoning. So non-verbal reasoning is where design comes in. It's thinking about things that you've never seen before and visualizing them in different areas. Now the chem testing is a very difficult test to do. It is one test that starts them off at their grade level, and if they start to get questions correct, it pushes them harder and harder and harder to figure out what level they're truly at. So what I look at is I look at students above 130. So if I've contacted you already, that is because your son or daughter is excelling in either English, maths or non-verbal. And what I do then is I start to make plans for them, individual plans for their teachers so that they feel challenged in class. So currently they might not feel challenged enough in math, so I would challenge them further. If I contact you in the future, it could possibly be because your son or daughter is talented. Talented means that your son or daughter is working extremely hard, it's clearly paying off, but maybe they want to devote their focus into certain areas and they might be overwhelming themselves in one area, and I want to help them manage that skill and guide it toward where it needs to be. So if I contact you in the future, please feel free to drop it to me at any time and I'll be able to help you out with either of those aspects. Morning, Mr. Carlos.
I won't keep you waiting. Good morning, I'm Mr. Carlos and I'm the head of arts for MYP. And I also work with the DP teachers. I'm gonna wait for I'm gonna wait for Mr. Vaughn to get the little tongue so that I can show you some cool pictures of the stuff that we do. But in the meantime, I can just tell you that from grades 6 through 8, okay, students go in the 12-week carousel. That's really the biggest point in my presentation. So that means that for 12 weeks, students will be in visual arts. Second 12 weeks, they go to music. Third rotation, they go to drama. Okay, so and that rotation goes from 6th grade all the way to 8th grade. At the end of grade 8, students have to choose which arts discipline they want to focus on for the rest of their MYP career, which is grade 9 and grade 10. Okay, and I get to show you some pictures now so that you can see what that looks like. Vaughn, can you please ask Ms. Lorraine for the one that we usually use? Because
Is it different?
yeah, it's it's an Ethernet one. It's an Ethernet with
I really want to show you this because I think that they're really cool and I spent a lot of time making this for you today.
and it's got like all the units that we make, so or that we do. So I really want to show you this. Okay, going back to what I was saying, grades 6 through 8, they go through a rotation. Okay, they complete 1 unit in each discipline. That means that they will have completed 3 of each criterions in the overall year. In the arts, or just like every other subject, we have 4 different criteria: knowledge and understanding, application of skills, creative thinking, and responding. I don't know why. Okay. So, I'm Mr. Carlos, as I was saying. I'm going to tell you about the progression of skills and knowledge from grades 6 through 10, the assessment criteria, ways that you can help us help the students, and then if there's any questions at the end. Here's a little map of all of the units that we do in grades 6 through 10. Okay. If you notice, grades 6 through 8 only have 1 unit per each discipline. This is all in the curriculum handbook, by the way. And then from grade 9 on, then we have more units because the students are in that discipline for the rest of the year. So usually we do between 3 and 4 different units. Okay. This was just to show you that number. I didn't expect you to try to read this. It is in the booklet that we did. Okay. So this year, in particular, for grade 6, are we mostly grade 6 parents? In grade 6, for visual arts, we're going to be doing clay for the very first time. Okay, so it's a really cool unit because they actually get to play with firing their own pieces and also glazing. Okay, usually only grade 10 students get to work with clay in this capacity, but now we lowered it to grade 6 to help build those skills all the way up. In drama, it's about foundations of drama. In MYP or in PYP, students don't have drama as a class. Okay, it's usually an elective or an extracurricular. So that's why it was important to look at the traditions and more of the foundation skills that go with the discipline. And in music, they are learning how to write and how to play. Okay. Looks like this. So grade 6. The whole aim from grade 6 to grade 8, sorry that I'm repeating a little bit now because of, but the aim from grade 6 to grade 8 is to expose students to a variety of disciplines, okay, for them to get to try out and test what the different disciplines have to offer. Okay. And as they progress through these 3 rotations of the carousel, they will hopefully have a good understanding and good idea of what that discipline is like so that they can actually focus on that for grade 9 and 10. Here's some of the formative work that the grade 6s have done so far in the last month. So this is very fresh kind of work. In grade 7, again, it's the second rotation. This time in visual arts, they go back to flat work, okay? And we noticed that in grade 7, students are very keen with their selfies and self-image and all this good stuff. And so we made a unit in visual arts called The Selfie, where they have to explore identity, but also pattern. Okay, so the technical aspect is trying to achieve a tonal range using pattern. They do similar work with related to identity also in drama. And then in music, they are now learning to compose. They do the blues. And grade 8, okay, is the last year of the rotation. Okay. And the important thing to note about grade 8 is that at the end of grade 8 is probably the funnest part of my job, which is the subject selection. And it's this lovely form that I get to send to all the parents and students, and they get to have these amazing discussions about where to go and who do I want to be with and why do I want to be in this discipline. There's usually very great discussions that come out of that. And they give me their first 2 options. Okay. Usually it works out that everybody gets their first choice, but again, it depends on the numbers as well. Okay. We do have a capacity of 27 students per class. We try to keep it at 26 so that teachers are able to assist everybody in a sensible way. And then I guess the other new thing in grade 8 is the introduction of, well, I like to call it media arts. They still call it photography, but it's really not only photography.